If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Keeneland Today, October 5th edition here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Roscoe, and my co-host, Charlie Freeman from Betting and Boozing, and we help you guys cover the early pick five today at Keeneland. If you guys want the late pick five, of course, we already covered that on the channel. So after you watched this morning's edition of Keeneland Today, please go to Picks and Ponies, and I'll grab the episode for you guys. My fault. Episode 376 of Picks and Ponies as we covered the late pick five on Fall Stars Saturday. Charlie, what's going on, my friend? Early in the morning, but you're up anyway because I know you got a game later today.
Yeah, I figured I'd start getting ready ahead of time, at least throw the jersey on. My Bucks take on Iowa today, first game in the shoe, so very excited to finally get to see them again.
Yeah, no kidding. And is it really first game in the shoe? That's crazy. But
sorry, I guess first Big Ten game in the shoe. Just I didn't buy tickets to see them beat a random team by 50.
Yeah, no kidding. And if you're a Michigan fan, you watch them beat Fresno State by 3. Anyway, we're gonna go. Of course, like I said, we're gonna cover the early pick five for you guys. This morning, races 1 through 5. Of course, guys, I see you guys all in the chat. Good morning. Thank you guys all for joining the show. Keith Borger joins, says, let's repeat yesterday. Opening day was very, very good to me. Paul did crush Keeneland Power Picks earlier yesterday. On top by Stylish Sue, who came through at 4-1 on a front-running effort in a dirt sprint, which seems to be the very big norm at Keeneland so far this whole year, including the spring meet. Front-running speed is just killing these dirt sprints. So, and Big Dog is here. Big Dog ready to roll. Thanks so much. Benny Betts, Michael Lawson, Katie, of course, is here. Thank you guys all for joining the show. We're not going to waste too much of your guys' time. But first, of course, if you guys are new here or you find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't subscribed, why not? You guys are already coming back anyway. It's completely free. Please go down below the video player here on YouTube. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. We'd greatly appreciate it because not only is it the best and easiest way to help out our channel, but it pushes these videos out into the YouTube algorithm to hopefully bring like-minded horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast. And of course, for that, we thank you. You can find every single episode posted here to the HHH Racing Podcast in audio form, of course, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor, where you find those. Please go rate, review, and subscribe over there. Guys, Power Picks are still going on for the normal Power Picks, patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Only $4 a weekend. You get 2 full tracks, price plays, spot plays, pick 5 grids, everything you need to be successful on any given Saturday. HHH Racing Podcast has you covered through the Power Picks. Again, patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Links are also in the description. And if you want to learn more about us or see previous editions of these aforementioned Power Picks before you buy them, HHHRacingPodcast.com is the place to do that. And you go on the top, you'll see Power Picks tip sheet on the top tabs. Click on that, and you can go and see all the information there. Charlie, we'll get right into it. As I said, race number 1 starts off the early pick 5, and it's a maiden claiming event going 6 furlongs on the dirt. It is a field of 9, and I'm bringing up the Echo Base right now for you guys so everyone can take a look. The morning line favorite, and still holding true to that, is the number 9, Jay David, for Moncada and Tom Drury Jr. at 5-2. Second choice is number 4, One True Chance. Walter Rodriguez takes aboard the Wesley Ward first-time starter at 3-1, and the number 1, Colonel York, for Jaime Torres and Brett Calhoun at 4-1. Again, live odds staying true as their pools are very, very early in their opening state. But I'll show the PPs right now, Charlie, and I'll switch over our picks. Funny enough, Charlie, we're going exactly the same starting off this first one. I know if you like a Wesley Ward first-time starter, I know I should be on board as well.
Yeah, for me, what I keyed in on was that work 2 back in the 47 flat. And, there's some other, bullet works, because we talk about this and how some trainers that are big time don't normally crank up their horses and others do. And Wesley, especially with his firsters or second time out horses, likes to have them cranked up. So if you don't see any sort of fast works, you should be concerned. Obviously, this is a little different as we're not normally used to seeing horses of his being thrown into these claiming like races on debut. But I know with this one out of Chance a lot that there was a horse actually named Perfect Chances who ran in a 4.5 furlong dirt sprint. I think it actually was at Keeneland as well. and
Mm.
one going away and looked very impressive. Obviously, it didn't work out when the horse went to Gulfstream on the turf, but the horse looks better on dirt by a lot. So I'm just thinking this one out of, similar background. Obviously, Evan Ward again could be very good on debut, at least on the dirt.
Well, I'll tell you what, Joe. You want to see a great stat? I'll go to Wesley Ward. Talk about cranking his horse's first time out, but talk about, we talk about a Keeneland all the time, how he really points to these meets. You just go first time starters with DRF Formulator, go to use today's track. Look at that. About 38%, 32 for 85 on the win end, first time starting at Keeneland. 68% in the money, even has a positive ROI, even though his horses get bet a lot. And I didn't do this yesterday. This will be really interesting. Go all claiming races, first time starter, and let's see. Yeah, no, he'd have nothing in the DRF formula for that. So he doesn't usually put his horses in there first time out. However, 38% on the first time starter at Keeneland. Wesley Ward working very well, 47-3. He has 2 48s, 47s back here. So one true chance, as long as he gets a front running trip, as it's shown to be very formidable on the dirt. I think the 4, one true chance, at least if he's a good price, anything above 5-2, I think I would take. Anything below that would definitely be too low for me on a first time starter. But one true chance, as long as he gets the trip, I think should be pretty good for Wesley Ward. You and I both have the number 1, Colonel York, in second, Brett Calhoun. Bet Mitch Get Rich has ridden this 4 times in a row. Now comes back to sprinting after going a mile at Ellis and 6.5 at Churchill. Now cuts back again. I like him at the shorter distance. He ran a good 5 at Churchill Downs for out of first time asking. Now comes back into the maiden ranks. Always gives his run, but again, this is not really where you want to be. And actually, Trish, thanks so much, Trish, for doing that. Donate $10, Drake job, guys. Trish, you didn't have to do that. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Trish. Much appreciated. Of course, you're one of our longest subscribers of the podcast in general. But yeah, you didn't have to do it. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And that's done through the donate button underneath the video player here on YouTube. You can donate a super chat and whatever message you want to put in if you choose to donate. Of course, very much appreciated and not at all needed by any means. But thank you so much, Trish. Greatly appreciate that. Charlie, again, Colonel York, second. We both have him in second, just maybe a little bit against the track, but always gives his run.
Yeah, I just also we've kind of seen who this horse is now. I kind of thought, debut. I thought honestly, I know the figure wasn't great, but lost by a neck, not a bad effort. Tried to completely switch things up with stretching out on the turf. Clearly not what the horse wanted. Didn't work. Kept the horse stretched out again. Again, didn't seem like it was just the surface issue, but I just think this one clearly, as you mentioned, for one that's off the pace, maybe they figured distance would help, and clearly it hasn't. I think my big kind of concern was last time out, getting back to this kind of distance on the right surface, sort of, and at the right level, every chance to, sort of show that this one can get it done and didn't. And I mean, it wasn't a bad effort, but I think it kind of just shows who Colonel York is, which is just a horse that, runs low 50 buyers, and in a field like this is probably one of the safer bets to, finish somewhere in the money, but just nothing that really gives you, especially also with a short price that I think you'll probably get around that 4-1 that I would take on top. But I think the horse is a safe bet to at least finish somewhere in the money. And out of those who have run, has done the most for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. A lot of these other ones, I mean, you have the 2 out with Shiza up last time who did absolutely no running. Cavanal for Moquette didn't do really any running at Indy, and now comes over here 15-1 on the morning line. Bejarano picks it up on the turf for Manuel Chavez, ran at Kentucky Downs and Ellis Park in a restricted maiden optional. Again, no running, just basically. And then you go to the 9, who's the other first-time starter in here. Just a lot of these horses that have run already haven't done too much for me. Maybe Hank Hill's the only one, which fantastic name, by the way, but it's really the only other one that's done any type of running, but has done it at lower main ranks at Ellis. Came back at Churchill, ran a pretty good 4th, but you do get a big jockey upgrade as Christian Torres takes them out there. So the 8, Hank Hill, might be the only other one I would take a look at of those that have run already. But the 9, Jay David, Charlie's the only other one we have in the mix, working pretty good, but working as those 3 furlongs, like should show speed based off those works, I think. But again, I don't take too much of those for the 3 furlongs too much to heart, and you're getting a bug aboard, so you're getting that weight break.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And again, I think this is just one of those races where it's, really, kind of begging you to look for a fresh face because those who have run haven't showed you anything. I'll be honest, I'll be surprised if this one does end up going off as the favorite or 5-2. Then I think Jay David, I'd honestly be super confident actually end up will winning, and I would want to move the horse up just because I don't think Thomas Drury, with all due respect, kind of has the same look with firsters that Wesley Ward would get. Uh, Realistically, I would be stunned if the 4 doesn't go off as the favorite, and this one kind of moves up to more, 7-2, 4-1 ish. But like you said, I mean, aside from the 3 furlong workouts that indicate the horse should show speed, even the 4 furlong workouts are solid. So has a decent tab. And again, respectfully to these other horses, the bar that's set is kind of low. I will say though, from a value perspective, I do agree with you for Hank Hill. Like if you were to take a stand with one of the 2 firsters on top, I think at 8-1, I don't think you'd get 8-1, but didn't finish that far behind Colonel York, who has also had chances, and you're getting double the price. So if you're looking for value underneath, I think the 8's worth a look.
And the only thing that I'm like, again, for me so far this Keeneland meet, and it's been this way the spring as well. Until I see otherwise, I'm not going to be going with these types of closers in these dirt sprints, at least on the win end. It's been so hard for these closers to get up. That not in the money necessarily, but at least on the win end. The number 9, Jay David. The thing that I like, Irving Moncada is a jockey that's been riding at Belterra, but he rides a lot for Tom Drury. And you can see the numbers right there. He's won 20 already. It's 16% out of 122 starts. He's riding very well. Now comes into this spot with a horse. And with these types of jockeys that you don't know versus, you get Christian Torres, Tyler Gaffleone, those types. Jay David's probably going to be a little disrespected on the odds just based on they don't know who the hell this jockey is. And they're going to gravitate other places, especially for a marquee meet like Keeneland. So Jay David might get a little bit disrespected on the odds. So if you do like this first year, you're definitely going to get a decent price on this horse. Charlie and I are both going 419 in the first at Keeneland on Saturday. Little shout out Thomas Spinoza. Thanks so much for joining the show, my man. Greatly appreciated. And the boss is here. He said, hello, everyone. Thanks to Kyle and Charlie for covering the show. Just got back from the WinStar Training Center to see one of the horses I have an ownership piece of with Adelphi Otello. For those that have been following the Derby Trail earlier this year, ran well at Gulfstream down in South Beach, Charlie. And now Adelphi bought that horse, and now he's working for them and hopefully get back to the track soon. Good luck to you as well, Howard, obviously out there at Keeneland. He says, as of now, no Keeneland Today show tomorrow, but if that changes, it'll be on YouTube hosted by Howard. So just keep an eye out for that as well. Guys, let's move on to race number 2. And it's a really nice maiden special weight, 100,000 going a mile on the turf course with a full field of 12, as it always is at Keeneland on the turf, with 4 also eligibles. And I'll show our picks right now and move over to the Equibase. You can see, Charlie, we're going with 2 different horses, but we are pretty similar. But I don't have the 3 anywhere, which is actually really interesting. You're going with number 3, Authentic Gallop, for Frankie Dettori, who rode well yesterday for Tom Amos at 9-2. Morning line favorite is the 1 that I'm going with, States Rights, the Virginia bred for Saez and Cherie DeVoe at 5-2. Second choice is the number 9, Dream Scheme, for Luan Machado and Brendan Walsh. And your third choice is the aforementioned number 3, Authentic Gallop. Charlie, this is a horse that was probably in the mix. It was in the mix for me for a while, but the other, completely contrary to these dirt sprints, these front runners in these turf outings have not been holding up at all. But Authentic Gallop ran well last time at Saratoga, just got nipped at the wire. So you're hoping he takes them all the way again here.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is he set really decent fractions last time out. It was also, a big move to go from, a dirt start going long where the horse faded horribly to then switch to the turf and set those fractions and still nearly take them all the way. And lost to Early Adopter, who in my opinion is a really nice horse. I just honestly, you know me, I'm normally closer heavy. As you've touched on, the dirt has been hurting me at Keeneland and the turf has been helping me because I normally tend to play closers. However, I don't see a lot of speed in this race. I know the 2 to the inside is going to be going for sure, but to me personally, and I think that 15-1 morning line shows, I think that horse will be cheap speed. I know the 6 should show some speed, but again, is one that, faded pretty badly. I can just see this 3, saving ground towards the inside and sit right behind the cheap early speed. And I just think Dettori, he's done a really good job, not just winning, but also with his horses that have been more of stalkers or towards the front, has done a good job of being patient with them and not sort of letting them get too involved in the fight. Like I mean, I know it's a bad memory for you, but with that 8 horse he had yesterday, who's one that is kind of, more of a stalking type. He just had the horse sit patiently and go right by. So I just think he can work out a nice trip with Authentic Gallop. And if I'm getting 9-2, I don't think I will, especially with, again, that race last time and also with how well Dettori's been riding. But if I do, I'd love it. I think Authentic Gallop could just work out a perfect ground saving trip behind the cheap speed and then go right by. But I'll let you talk about the one because I do think States' Rights is interesting. And I think that's a more live race than people give credit to because there's some horses like States' Rights in that race where they set ridiculously slow fractions and he still was able to close up.
Yeah, I mean, they went 51-2 and 117-2 at Saratoga. I mean, I'll show this replay just to show the closing kick that States' Rights had, which is the one thing that I really key in on. Charlie, I know you, and as we've gone through this, we've started to watch more replays. We become more visual handicappers. The 5 States' Rights is right here on the inside on the hedge here. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. He's going to get a really good trip. That's not saying, but again, 117-2. He's going to show a really good closing kick to chase down Simulate, who was the longtime leader and just ends up missing out by a neck. I mean, you can see one jump later, he's past him. States' Rights is a horse. Virginia bred is actually really interesting, but was on the dirt, lost to Owen Almighty, who's a really nice horse as well on the 2-year-old trail, goes to the turf, shows a really good closing kick on a race that really should not have allowed a closing kick like that with how slow they went to the half and the 3/4. Now comes into this spot where a closer-friendly turf course draws the rail, should get a really nice trip from the inside there. Luis Saez hops back aboard this horse. Just everything seems to be pointing to go for this horse. Constitution, Pioneer of the Nile. This horse wants to run forever. Cherie DeVoe, top step of the fan club, as everybody knows. So everything seems to be pointing on go for States' Rights. 5-2 is a very earnest price on this horse. 2-1 is a little bit too low, but worth playing. Could argue anything lower than that, I wouldn't be willing to take, at least on the win end. I think 5-2 is a surefire value bet for me in this race. Because there's a lot of other horses that seem, Charlie, there's a lot of horses that like to, either move up and just not necessarily get all the way there in their first time asking, which again, first time for 2-year-olds, they could start to bloom here, which is why I would need 5-2 on a horse like this to be able to bet anything on the win end.
Yeah, and the other thing I will say to kind of help your argument, I mean, it hurt me bad yesterday because I had a big wager on West Beach yesterday, but that horse came out of this race and just barely missed. So it is a race that looks to be holding up. I know we both have the 5, so I'll briefly touch on it because there is one other one I want to briefly touch on. So Culture War, I think, is another interesting one. I know when I watched a lot of replays of Kentucky Downs with these firsters, and a lot of times horses really weren't able to kind of make any sort of sustained bids. And this was one that I thought kind of held up nicely. Obviously, didn't end up getting the job done on debut, but I think, it's a tough track to debut at, especially, going Kentucky Downs in a mile. And we talk about how that mile really runs and just how complicated of a course is. It's always difficult to debut there. So anytime I see a horse that runs pretty well there, I look back, towards those horses. And again, yesterday, I think was another one of those days where I know Noah likes to joke around with the Turfway takeover, but I saw plenty of horses that debuted at Kentucky Downs where if they actually ran well at that mile, they came back to run pretty decent as closers at this track. So I think Culture War is one that makes a lot of sense underneath. I think the horse, could take that step forward. I just think, it might be one where I want to wait and see a little bit with Culture War, but I also will say it's 6-1 with Tyler G, who's been riding out of his mind lately aboard. I think it's certainly a great value. I think right now this horse is more of, a safe bet underlay, but I think this one also could have a bright future.
Yeah, this is one that I mentioned before. They got going, sustained bid, just never really could get that punch. You could argue that it is Kentucky Downs, as you mentioned. That's just a really good point always. Trish Smith commented she loves the Kentucky Downs to Keeneland angle. Just coming back to this, War of Wills have done very, very good on the turf starting out. I think he's a 9% and a 10% on the turf, but all his top progeny are all, Royal Palm Juvenile for Garden of War. Cox just had one win at Kentucky Downs. The Natalma, 2 ran in the Natalma for War of Will. So definitely more of a turf sire, at least starting out his career. But I think the number 5 Culture War is going to be another one, basically right next to States' Rights. And that's the difference, right? Is that which horse would I rather have coming down the stretch? States' Rights has definitely shown the ability to have that quick punch. So I went with States' Rights over Culture War, but I still think Culture War could continue to take another step forward and maybe finish a really nice second in this race. The only other horse I had in there, Charlie, was Dream Scheme. Same type of angle with States Rights, right? Went 49-3, 114-3. Granted, at Indy rather than at Saratoga, so that's something to keep in mind. But Machado does hop up back aboard, and Dream Scheme lost to Minaret Station, who's actually a really nice looking horse for William Walden, who's a good, nice up and coming trainer. Ran third at Ellis, then went to Indy and ended up winning at 3-5. So Minaret Station's not a bad horse by any means to lose to, and they completely walloped the rest of the field. I mean, they went on together and they beat the rest of the field by 8 lengths. So just 2 above the rest there, and I think Dream Scheme could be another one to sit mid pack and have a nice run at it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dream Scheme won it all. Machado takes the mount here on a pretty live horse. So when he gets a live horse, I definitely at least like to take a look, because I think he's a really nice rider. The only other one I wanted to mention, Charlie, was number 4.
I was going to say,
Go for it.
4
Go for it.
Yeah, this was the one I was debating between putting in third between the 4 and 5. Another one that ran I thought a really nice debut came out of that Authentic Gallop race, which is another thing I keyed on. And again, I know that there was somewhat of a setup, but this one also I don't think has to be a true deep closer. Didn't really seem to like figure it out early on, but then once the horse kind of understood to get going, did so. But then also Irad didn't exactly have the best place to go with, but this horse finally did start to get going late. I guess my big question would be, again, sort of the same angle you have with States Rights, is for me, it's just, I went with the horse that'll be forwardly placed and then the best of the closers. But again, if you're looking for a price, I don't think with Johnny V you get 10-1, but that's another one like the 5 who could take a step forward.
Yeah, Johnny V, Todd Pletcher, you'd be lucky to get 10-1 on any horse like that. But either way, I agree with you. At least at a bigger price, that's definitely one to look forward to on, again, a closer-friendly turf. I'm going 159. Charlie's going 315 in the second race at Keeneland. The third race, guys, is another maiden special, 100,000. This one at 7 furlongs, and it's a field of 9. And I'll show the Equibase right now. The morning line favorite is a number 4, Impulse Buy, for Gaff Leone and Rudy Brissett at 5-2. Complex Secret, just drawn to the outside, is your second choice. Brian Hernandez, Kenny McPeak at 3-1. The third choice is the number 2. Oh God, Planiloquent. I will go with that. Jose Ortiz, Cherie DeVoe at 9-2. It's a betting and booze and staples. We always pronounce at least one horse's name wrong throughout the entire show. I'll show our picks right now, and we're both have the same top 3. Charlie, you are going with the 5, Complex Secret. I actually had this horse on top. I mixed these 3 around, but I ended up with the number 4, Impulse Buy. But Complex Secret for Kenny McPeak ran a really good race last time and should be forwardly placed again on a dirt sprint where forward speed has been killing it.
Yeah, I'm tired of getting beat by the speed, so I finally gave into a race where I had to put one of them on top. Look, this one, the debut was tough. I remember, again, covering that race for the Power Picks, but ran against Senza Parole, who is just a ridiculous horse.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, unfortunately, with the scratch, but this horse is a monster. Stunner in that race came back to run good. I know, hey, everybody ran second against a nice firster, so that's a race that's really kind of held up and had some nice horses come back out of it. I just think this one has the speed, can hold up. I think, second time out at Churchill Downs kind of showed what the horse could do running against a field that isn't loaded with monsters, and kind of was disrespected, admittedly, because I don't think people understood just how good that race was. That the horse actually went off at 25-1 and, held most of the way, obviously ended up, kind of fading back late, but it was more so that the other horses that were kind of behind went by. I didn't really, in my opinion, see this one as like, fade back too badly by any means. And I just don't really see speed in this race that I think can quite compete with this one. I know the 7 is going to show some speed. The firsters are unpredictable. I'm sure the 4 will, be somewhat forwardly placed. I just see kind of a lot of horses that haven't really showed me a clear, closing kick. And I just think the 5 is the fastest of the group. So I'm going to trust, this dynamic duo that's beat me a lot in the past with speed. A lot of things that have beat me in the past. I'm finally joining the dark side, and maybe they can get me a win.
Yeah, no kidding on that point. But yeah, I like that last race. Again, you mentioned the 25-1. They didn't really, Senza Parole Stunner, as you mentioned, that's a very live race coming out first time and working very well on the Churchill Dirt. Brandon Bullitt, of course, 1 of 4 only, but still 47-2 on the Churchill Dirt is not slow by any means. So Complex Secret's definitely one to include, especially off that last race with a really nice buyer jump up to 76. I went with Impulse Buy. Again, I'm kind of chalking out here early in this sequence, but this is a horse, Pioneer of the Nile, Speightstown. I like that he debuted, or she debuted. I caught it. We're fine. She debuted at 7 furlongs at Ellis. Again, not necessarily gave it up, Charlie. I think a lot of I think Liam in the Dust just ended up, still having more. It was 1-2 basically all the way around the track. Our Shenanigan was a horse that was up close. It just faded back, but Impulse Buy just didn't have what Liam in the Dust had that day. But I think if she can just get to the lead or sit right off the lead, I think Impulse Buy is definitely going to be one that needs to be taken a look at. And you go from Giroux to Tyler Gaffleone, and you all know how I feel about that. I don't have to say anything, but you don't have to, you don't, everyone, if you watch Betting and Boozing, you know what I'm talking about. But either way, I think it's a jockey upgrade. Impulse Buy. Rudy Brissett's done very well with these types of horses. I just think Impulse Buy really needs to be taken a look at. Again, wouldn't take anything less than 5-2 on a very nice field. The number 2, Planiloquent, is a horse for Cherie DeVoe, which I don't have on top, so everyone rejoice. I don't have a Cherie DeVoe horse on top for once. But Jose Ortiz takes them out here, working very well at Ellis, where Cherie DeVoe likes to have her Kentucky regiment, either at Ellis or at Keeneland. Just kept him there to keep him comfortable. Now ships him over to Keeneland here, Charlie. You have him in 3rd. I have him in 2nd. Should be a really nice horse as long as he can take the step out first time, where Cherie DeVoe is not necessarily most known to crank up her horses early.
Yeah, I think this is one that's going to be more of a wait and see. Again, I mean, obviously with the $260,000 price tag, they think she's well meant. I'm happy to see you have the horse somewhere, because I just saw the work tab that I really liked, and just how you are with Wesley Ward with me, I'm the same with you with Cherie DeVoe. So I know if there's a horse of hers that I'm kind of interested in, see you are, I should be on the right path. But I agree, as fantastic of a trainer she is, a lot of times you'll end up seeing her horses 2nd and 3rd time out be even better. Nothing against her as first, I just don't think it's her style. I think that's also why the workout tab had me positive. Is she doesn't crank her horses. She likes, as you said, to sort of get them comfortable, ease them in, and just build them up. But I think this is one who, is kind of in a bit of a tough spot here, but certainly wouldn't surprise me if the horse won. I think, as we always talk about, you kind of just got to monitor the board, but I think this one is a very bright future going forward.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. We'll see what happens. Again, this is kind of a wait and see, but this horse has been working very well, and I know Cherie doesn't do well first time out. It's not, like you said, Charlie, it's nothing against her firsters. I just think it's not her style. I think with patience, her horses get a lot better, but this is a horse that should show early speed from those early works. If you watch those works at Ellis, she's been very headstrong out of the gate. So I like Planiloquent in this spot, at least for an underneath price. The last horse I want to talk about before we move on, Charlie, is number 3, Big Air, who Katie had in 2nd, and Trish Smith says curious to see what price the number 3 Big Air will go off at. The reason I like Big Air, started out on the dirt at Ellis Park, didn't run too well, then went to the dirt or the turf at Kentucky Downs. I would assume, just like everyone else, most likely for the money, but bound to jumpstart. This is a horse as a half to Almost Gone Rocket, who's a very nice horse for the Fletcher 10 Strike Racing. And Brad Cox, who that was that horse in the Jersey Girl at Saratoga, who absolutely blew the doors off that field, just like she has in every single race up to this point. So I have to Almost Gone Rocket, and coming back, Vacoma, who's obviously done very well starting off his stallion career. Big Air is just, I agree with you, Trish. I'm very interested to see what this horse goes off at, because if this horse is taking money, this is definitely one that you need to consider, especially if you're playing a horizontal or something like that with this race.
No, this one will definitely take money. It's Dettori will make her. Yeah,
right. But I'm saying, if this horse is getting bet to 7-1 or something like that,
yeah,
definitely something you need to at least consider. I'm going 4-2-5. Charlie's going 5-4-2. Thank you guys all so much for joining the show. Of course, again, we have 2 more races to cover here on Keeneland today, the 10-5 edition here on the HHH Racing Podcast. If you guys are enjoying what you're seeing right now, please go down below to the player, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We would greatly appreciate it. Charlie, the next race is a really nice allowance on the turf, going 1 mile and 1/8. And as I always say, Keeneland on the turf, ladies and gentlemen, you're getting a full field of 12. And I'll show the PPs right now. The morning line favorite, Rebel Red, Jose Ortiz, Cherie DeVoe at 5-2. Second choice, number 6, Degree of Risk, Luis Saez for Nolan Ramsey at 4-1. Third choice, the number 10, Desert Duke, Bejarano and Chris Hartman at 6-1. Charlie, you and I are both going again the same top 3. Just I'm going with the 7 Rebel Red, and you're going with Buoys, which I'm glad you have Buoys in there somewhere. This is a horse that never really that I loved at Keeneland the first time he ran there, and I'll never forget it. He lost by a nose as usual. That's, it's on par for my type of betting and racing. But this is a horse that has been very consistent and has ran up front, has ran in the middle, has ran in the back of the pack. Very versatile horse, and I think that he's kind of easing back into that closer level as he gets a little bit older, which again I think benefits him greatly on this track.
Yeah, I think he's just one that's really been running consistently and has just been in tough fields, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you'd rather see a horse that's just been running against better and now gets an easier spot. And I thought ran really solid in that race last time out. As you touched on, it's kind of one where, I would argue more in, the 2023 days, kind of, in that October, summer, really that right after that Keeneland race was kind of when you were seeing the horse switch from being a closer to trying to be more forward, and it really wasn't working. And then you can kind of see after the horse came back to New York in May and on, the horse has kind of switched to being, unless it's a really cold pace, has kind of switched more to being a stalker. And I think that's just what he is at this point in his career, which is exactly, as you touched on, what I want on the turf. I don't want
Yep.
a horse that's completely on the lead unless there's literally no speed. And don't get me wrong, I love my closers, but I have nothing wrong with a versatile horse like this one who, where he can just kind of sit that stalking trip. Again, love that Tyler G is back aboard, who, was on him in that really good Keeneland effort. And also was on him in the Kentucky Downs win, so has had some success with this horse. I'll tell you what, if I get 8-1 on a horse with Tyler G and Michael Maker, I might be putting an irresponsible wager on the horse, but I don't see that happening. I just think this is a spot where it's a full field, it's an open race. I think it's one that you should be demanding a price in because there's a lot of quality talent. And this one came out of the same race as the favorite and beat the horse. And I might be remembering this wrong, but is the favorite the Cherie DeVaux horse who had the injury? If I'm remembering correctly, was
Um,
that the eye injury or is that a different Cherie
I think
DeVaux
that's a
horse?
different horse because this is the horse. This is the horse that ran at Saratoga, who we all liked at like 7-2.
Yep.
I'll go to Rebel Red right now. That last race at Saratoga, this is against Running Bee and Fort Washington. Buoys was of course in that race. Rebel Red just really didn't run well. I'm not sure what happened in that race. Maybe it was the horse, Charlie. I might be thinking of, I got
Yeah,
a.
I just looked it up. Yeah, Rebel Red.
It is that horse.
That was the first start since the horse lost its eye in a stall accident.
Well, there you go. And that was, which again, that could be something that's obviously first time out didn't run very well, but second time out after that little bit of a hiatus here, I think he'll be a lot better, a lot more inclined. But this is completely basically the opposite of Buoys, right? This is a horse who's 4, just starting out. I like that he's lightly raced as a 4-year-old. Has run very well at Churchill and Saratoga before that last race. Now comes back into this spot. I agree with you on the price perspective that this is a very competitive race. But this is one that really hasn't shown who he is yet. Frankel out of a Lemon Drop Kid mare. This horse is bred very well, bred royally, and should hopefully run like it coming into this spot where, again, another mid-pack in a closer-friendly track. I just think Rebel Red could be one that might just be a little bit better than a lot of these horses. Because, again, like horses like Buoys and others where they've shown who they are, I just think Rebel Red can continue to get really good. But, again, that injury is something to at least keep in mind. If this horse doesn't run very well again, maybe the horse just can't run well with one eye. You can only run well with 2 eyes. But either way, Degree of Risk is the only other horse we have in there, Charlie. Both have in third. Again, Nolan Ramsey picked up this horse last time from Owen Hardy and had a very nice win at Kentucky Downs. Now comes into this spot. Talking about that Kentucky Downs to Keeneland angle, it's worked well in the past. But here, going to that mile and an eighth distance from that mile, again, that should be no issue for a horse that's won at Kentucky Downs at the mile distance.
Yeah, and Godolphin bred and owned by the Ramseys, so you know that this one certainly is going to take money, but also I think deservedly so. To me, I don't know about you. I think the 3 we have will end up most likely going off as your top 3
Yeah.
personally. I think it'll probably end up being 7, 6, 4 in the odds. I thought these were the 3 that kind of stood apart from the rest of the field. Again, not off, any sort of major layoff, but still hadn't been seen since, a somewhat disappointing effort in June where it looked like the horse maybe would build off of that effort at Indy, but kind of just flattened out. But then, off the trainer switch, got that time to, get the act together, go to Kentucky Downs where, yes, I know the money was, but also, got bet down, so the public felt that this horse could take a step forward and ended up, winning nicely at also a very fast time, might I add, compared to some of these others we've been seeing. I think this is one to certainly look out for. I think my one question is sort of what trip Luis Saez gets with this one, because I think if he uses some aggression and gets degree of risk closer to where Buies is, I could really see degree of risk end up being the one to beat. My main concern, though, is a lot of what this horse has done has been more of a deep closer, as you can kind of also see with time form showing that early speed of just 61. And so my sort of, I guess, one worry with this horse on the win end is I feel like if you're not as forward as the 4 and you're farther back than the 7, I just don't quite know how this one wins. But again, I think that it's good that Luis is aboard, because I think he knows that they'll figure that out as well. They know what they're doing there. And I think if the 6 is a little more forward, is another one who could certainly win.
I do agree with you from that standpoint where, if the 4 is going to be up close and depending on what they choose to do tactic wise, but is going to be farther back than Rebel Red. I agree from a win standpoint. I wouldn't be willing to trust, especially at, second choice, low price. But I'd be more inclined taking the 7 at 5-2 than the 6 at 7-2 or 4-1, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But in Buies at 8 or 8-1, 6-1, whatever he's going to end up going off at, I don't necessarily see a win candidate for the 6 unless he does show that really nice closing kick that he's shown in the past and can blow by everybody again, which has been shown at Keeneland to work. But from a win standpoint, I'd be much more inclined going with the 4 or the 7. I'm going 7-4-6. Charlie's going 4-7-6. Guys, we'll move into the last race here, which is a $100,000 optional claiming running 6 furlongs on the dirt. And we've covered a lot of young 2-year-old races, and this is not one. This is one not to fall away from the tree. Again, a field of 9 in this 2-year-old effort, with the morning line favorite actually being the number 4, Macho Music, which I was a little bit intrigued in. Luis Saez for Rohan Crichton at 3-1. Sexagenarian for Ricardo Santana and Mike Maker is your second choice at 7-2. And the third choice is Corinne for Florent Giroux and Jose D'Angelo coming back to the dirt at 4-1. And I'll put up our picks right now. Charlie, you are going with the 4, Macho Music. I'm going a little bit off the board here with number 2, 80 West, Gaffleon, and Dallas Stewart. But Charlie, this is a horse that's run down at your and they scratched Sexagenarian. So that's scratches just came in, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone, a round of applause as all our picks get scratched out. But Sexagenarian is out, Charlie. So that's number 5, which is actually a pretty big scratch. That was one of the only ones that if the pace did heat up, I thought could be very versatile.
Also big air scratch. Sorry, but I know that's pretty big to our viewers.
Which one? Sorry.
Big Air.
Big Air, the 3.
Yeah,
that is. Yeah, Trish and Katie pointed out that horse. That stinks. But either way, we'll have to switch I'm going to put Macho Music in there because that was one I was messing with. But I'll go 2-7-4 in this race now, Charlie. If you want to put in another horse,
I'll go 4-2-7. It's not fun, but
I know. Well, I like Corinne coming back to the dirt here, but we'll talk about it. But again, Macho Music.
Change it up. Now we got the same top 3. But it's
I know. Yeah, dude, we love scratches. Either way, Macho Music, Charlie, is a horse that ran at Gulfstream again down Mr. South Beach. But this is one that won by daylight last time. Didn't necessarily win last time, which I thought didn't really have any excuse. But again, coming from first time out, it's hard to win it. But 4-5, and then last time showed probably who he really is.
Yeah, I feel like you never really know with these firsters. And I mean, they did go, considering that was on the dirt, they did have some decent fractions on that debut. Happens. Horse got bet down, which for me is more what I like to see, is that this horse was taking money, that they did think Macho Music was going to be good. And then not only responded, but just destroyed that field last time out. For me, I've kind of actually been against a decent amount of the Gulfstream horses that I've seen other people on our show be interested in and I've been watching these Keeneland races and have really been fading Gulfstream. And those who I haven't really played haven't worked out. So I will say, how I've been following you with Sri DeVoe, maybe this is something where it comes back to bite you with not following Macho Music, because I have been carefully picking my spots where I do use these Gulfstream horses. I mean, look, the sires, McLean's Music, so this one is fast. I think, Krypton Rohan, I think he's a very, very underrated trainer that people don't really know about as much compared to some of these other Gulfstream trainers. And also, with the 46-4, this horse is working very forwardly as well. And I like to see that it's not, just working at Gulfstream, that he's already gotten some works down here in Kentucky as well. I just think, again, it's spin speed favoring. I like that this horse responded well with the added distance and one going away with while setting also basically 5 furlong sprint fractions and then still romped away against this field. I just think this is going to be a catch me if you can. And, I think your 2 is very interesting at a price. I think it's another catch me if you can. And I just don't really see much any closers besides maybe the 5 who's now out. And I think the 4 is the fastest of the group.
Yeah, and I'll talk about 80 West in a second when I like that horse, but I do agree with you. This is a horse that I was playing with, going in, going out in my top 3 with Sexagenarian in the race. Now that he's out, I think you definitely have to include him just based on what the track profile and the way that it's been playing. But especially with Luis Saez aboard, that he's going to be aggressive early, going to put him in the right spot. Rohan Crichton, I agree with you, Charlie. He runs a lot now at Gulfstream, but 22% down there, especially when you going against the likes of like Savvy Joseph. 22% down in South Florida is definitely something to keep in mind. And if this horse goes to the front and is just that fast early, they might be playing a game of catch me if you can. I liked 80 West's last time out. I thought he showed that he's really fast out of the gate as well. And I like that he's drawn to the inside in this race. The fact that he can just go without, and Gaffleone hops back aboard on this horse for Dallas Stewart. I know that last time out, it was a restricted race for horses sold less than 50,000 at Saratoga, but given a little bit of break from that 4.5 at Churchill Downs, comes back at Saratoga, wins going away in a very nice effort. Now comes back into this race where the track's playing that way, shows to be quick up front, and Gaffleone hops back aboard at a horse that's working also very well after that, coming out of that race at Churchill. This looks like a pointed 2 spot here for 80 West, and if he can get out of the gate early, I'd trust Gaffleone to get him home at least on the win end, and in a race that I think could be pretty wide open, especially now with the scratch of the number 5 Sexagenarian, who was my only other horse I was really going to play on the win end. I think 80 West at 8-1 is probably not 8-1 anymore. He's probably going to be more like 6-1, 5-1 in this race, but I still think that's a good enough price to warrant at least a look and a play where Macho Music now is probably going to drop pretty consistently. I'd say probably 5-2, 2-1 on the win end. Kieran is a horse, Charlie. The last one we'll talk about, and then we'll end the show here as we're nearing the 45-minute mark. This is a horse that I thought ran really well at Gulfstream first time out, then came out of the Carlos Munoz barn and into the Jose D'Angelo barn, who put him straight to the turf in both the Tyro at Monmouth and then the Juvenile Mile at Kentucky Downs. So trying a couple things with him now brings him back to, I think, his type of race with Lord Nelson. Does have Curlin in there, which would suggest some distance, but ran really well at the 5 furlong at Gulfstream. Lord Nelson's are very good sprinting on the dirt. And if this one can sit, he has shown that he can rate a little bit. So if he does sit, this could be one that if the pace does heat up, could take up the pieces.
Yeah, I think that's his real method to victory. And I'm curious. I thought you might hint at that a little bit with the 2 as well, because I just thought that 6 furlong sprint speed isn't quite the same, as crazy as it might sound though. Some of that 5.5, especially at Gulfstream Speedway. That's why I like the 2 underneath. I thought this one could save ground on the inside and maybe let the 4 do the dirty work. But no, I think the 7's kind of the same angle. I think the ideal situation for Florent Giroux is the 4 and the 2 kind of just go head to head and tire each other out and go in an all-out sprint. The 7 sits maybe 2 lengths off and then just goes right by. I thought, agreed with you. I thought the debut was very solid. I have no issue with them, experimenting with the turf and also throwing into races like that. For me, it more so just shows, especially for a guy like Jose D'Angelo, who really knows what he's doing, another very respected trainer at Gulfstream. I think it just shows he had faith in this horse. One thing I will say that's interesting also is that last workout, 45 and 2.
Which that was 6 days ago too. Yeah, 45 and 2 is pretty damn. I mean, Jose D'Angelo likes to work his horses fast. He likes to work his horses fast, but that's extremely fast. So there's something to at least keep in mind of as well. I'm going 2-7-4 in the last race, literally pick 5. Charlie's going 4-2-7. Guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. If you guys did, please go down below the video player here on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because we have Keeneland today, every single Saturday and Sunday shows. Keeneland Power Picks every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Go to hhhracingpodcast.com for those. Just again, and patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast for the normal power picks. Charlie, the horses you're looking for today, you have 2 of them in the early pick 5, but then a horse that's pretty near and dear to your heart that you want to touch on real quick. Number 2, Authentic Gallop, is the horse at 9-2 in race number 2. Bowie's the 8-1 horse in race number 4 who you liked, and of course the horse that's near and dear to your heart, number 8, Chili Flag, going in the First Lady in race 8.
Yeah, so I mean, Authentic Gallop talked about it a little bit, but Dettori's been, riding really well. I think there's not a lot of speed in this race. I think Authentic Gallop saves all the ground, sits right behind the cheap speeder. If they really don't move at all, then I think Authentic Gallop just kind of goes on with it and gets away. I know it's been speed or closer favoring, but I think I'd also get a really square price on that one. Going into Buies again, I just think we talked about. I think it's likely a 3-horse race. This is at least initially the clear best price. Also, this one will certainly, regardless of the style, get the jump on the 6 and 7. Tyler G's been riding incredibly, and I just think this is kind of a horse who's continuously run against difficult and finally gets in this spot. And then Chili Flag, my favorite horse. I don't know if I should be nervous now that everybody's jumping onto the bandwagon, and I was the OG on Chili Flag. Have always loved this horse. Will always bet her whenever I see her. I will say, though, trying to put bias aside as much as I possibly can, I thought that last race was just a fluke. I think the reality is, watching that race live, as someone who obviously once again had Chili Flag in that race, I sort of knew it was over once I saw that first time with the 49 and 2 and 113 and 3. They were just walking the entire way. Gets back to that mile also, which is where she has shown her best kick. And I think, with some of the other horses in this field, especially a horse like AG Bullet, there's no way they crawl again. And if I'm wrong, you can quote me on this, but I think it's going to set up nicely. And I'll throw in one other because I'm for the public. I'm also going to give out a double of Chili Flag into Ferocious into the next race, who's another horse I'm very high on.
Yeah, Ferocious is the horse I actually picked against. I went East Avenue, I believe is the horse's name in that race. Yeah, the Godolphin horse for Dance Music, who's in the family of Dance Card, which of course is the dam of Cody's Wish and others. But Ferocious is definitely live in that race and probably the most likely winner on the card if he can get the trip that I think he will get. I'm going 3 horses outside the late pick 5. Again, we touched on this on Thursday. Usually a Thursday. On Wednesday, Bettin' and Boozin', our show, covered on Thursday for the Aqueduct Stakes with the Grade 1 Frisette and the Grade 1 Champagne. So if you're interested in the Aqueduct today, please go give that a listen as well. I went, and this is my horse to break the chain today, the number 6, Zeitlos, in race number 7. Again, going to be coming from off the pace, but there is a lot of early speed on the dirt in that race. So if there's one to break the chain, I think Zeitlos is definitely going to be that horse. Again, one that's been facing a lot tougher, comes into this Thoroughbred, the Thoroughbred Club of America Stakes in this race. Ran the open mine last time, ran very, very good against some really good horses. Now comes back into this spot, I think definitely fit and ready to go. Number 8, Chili Flag, Charlie already talked about it. I've been against this horse 5 times in a row. Burned me twice, and I'm finally ready to get on the bandwagon again. Charlie mentioned it. I think she's much better at a mile. I think she's going to be overlooked a little bit based off that last race. Again, they shouldn't crawl this time. I think she's poised for a very, very good effort today. And More Than Looks, guys, over Carl Spackler. I'm going for, I know we talked about it. Howard and I are very high on More Than Looks, coming second off the layoff in this race on a closer-friendly turf course. I think More Than Looks hopefully has what it takes to get it done today at a nice price over the very, very talented Carl Spackler. But guys, that'll do it for the 10-5 edition of Keeneland today on the HHH Racing Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please go down below the video player again, subscribe, comment below the video player. If you guys want to see, if you guys like the shows, your picks, want to see any changes, etc., please go comment below video player here on YouTube. We have live shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Bettin' and Boozin', my show, and Charlie's show on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Pacific Horse Players Wednesday at 9 p.m. And, of course, Picks and Ponies Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Crush your bets today, guys, here at Keeneland Racecourse and throughout the weekend. We will see you Tuesday night here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Good luck, everyone, here at Keeneland on Saturday.
Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.